Aviz Networks announced this week that they've just closed a new funding round of $10 million. The startup is focused on support for the open source Sonic networking operating system, and it was led by Cisco Investments. Aviz has products focused on installation of Sonic as well as practical uses such as packet brokering and fabric testing. Tom, we have been watching Sonic very closely, and there's a bunch of startups in this space, but you've just recently talked to Aviz. How will this funding round help them, and is there something to this Cisco connection?
I always think this is funny because a lot of people are like, oh, Cisco's looking at buying this company, because they've invested in them. No, Cisco actually does run an investment arm. It's not always the case that Cisco buys a company that they invest in. But you have to wonder if Cisco doesn't think that there's something here. Because you're right, we have seen a dearth of startups recently that are focused on this idea of bringing Sonic to the enterprise. We're not really in a situation where people are developing their own operating system now to do that. I mean, we do have companies that are building their own operating systems, but the fact that there are several startups who have kind of landed on Sonic to do that tells you that somebody believes there's value there. The problem is that Sonic is not the easiest thing in the world to move into the enterprise. It really was built for hyperscalers and service providers, and its instrumentation and its setup and everything like that feels very focused on that world. It's almost like you need a company who's focused on figuring out how to package it properly and provide installation support services for the common person to be able to run it in an environment that feels good. And if you're having shades of Red Hat right now, you would not be the only one thinking that, because in the interview where they announced that they're getting this funding round, their CEO, Vishal, actually said the same thing. He's like, we see ourselves as kind of the Red Hat of the Sonic world, which is really what they are. They're providing installation and support services for this operating system. They're also upstreaming a lot of code back into Sonic so that people can take advantage of this. But of course, because their people wrote the code, they know how to use it better than anybody else. And I think that there's a real value here. Because kind of like we talked about in the previous story about using RISC-V architecture to kind of build what you want to build, you can do that with Sonic too. If you need to focus this switch on high-speed packet throughput and strip out a lot of the stuff that you don't really care about, great, you can do that in the operating system. If you need to interface with some of the chip makers' chips and make sure that they're running at high performance, you can. And one of the things that they are also really good at is finding bugs in those chips and working around them, but also getting back to the chip manufacturers to say, you've got a bug here and you really probably should fix it. So I think that there's a lot of upside to getting this investment, because just like we've seen in anywhere else, with a lot of money, these companies can continue to provide these support services. It will allow Sonic to continue to mature as an operating system in the enterprise and encourage more people to take a chance on installing it because they know there's support services out there to help them, and not just jumping on a forum somewhere and hoping that Denver Coder 7 has figured this thing out.